Welcome to the Muscle Building Mastery Podcast, where guys that want to build muscle come to learn how to do it properly. We understand that there's more to building muscle than mindlessly throwing weights around and chugging mass gainer shakes. We're not interested in quick fixes or anabolic assistance. We're interested in mastering the art, science and skill set required to stack on real muscle and strength. My name's Andy Clements, and for the last 12 years I've devoted my life to figuring out how guys like us who don't have amazing genetics, don't have 5 hours a day to spend in the gym, and don't want to take steroids as a shortcut can build insane amounts of muscle and strength in weeks and months, not years and decades. This podcast is the result of all the lessons I've learned along the way, and it will give you the blueprint to building more muscle in less time. To get you started, head to www.musclebuildingmastery.net to download your free 6-week workout plan. Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to this episode of the Muscle Building Mastery Podcast. My name's Andy Clements, your host, and in this episode we're going to talk about muscle building or bulking for hard gainers. So are you a hard gainer? I used to be a hard gainer. I used to think I was a hard gainer, right? And I used to think back in the day when I first started training, I used to think that training alone was enough to build muscle. Have you guys ever thought about that? I used to think that just going to the gym, just the act of going to the gym, I had the divine right to build muscle, right? I used to think that by going to the gym 2, 3, 4, 5, even 7 days a week sometimes, that was going to help me grow and grow and grow. And I thought, I'm going to grow so much muscle by going to the gym so often, spending 3 or 4 hours in the gym every day. I'm going to grow so much muscle. And what happened was I got insanely sore from workouts. I just made myself really sore, and I was like, at first I was like, yes, I'm sore, I'm working my muscles are sure to grow now, they're gonna grow, man. And I was like, yes, I'm gonna grow so much muscle because they're sore. And then when the soreness wore off, nothing happened. No muscle grew whatsoever. I wasn't any stronger, I wasn't any bigger, I wasn't any leaner. I made no difference to my muscles whatsoever other than making them sore, because the reality is this: you don't grow in the gym, you grow out of the gym, right? The gym is the stimulus, but that's beside the point, right? This is how I went about bulking, right? And in this podcast, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the 2 things that I realized, the 2 realizations that I came to, that I was like, oh my God, without these 2 things, you cannot grow muscle, right? I don't care if you're a hard gainer, an easy gainer, a mediocre gainer. I don't care what kind of gainer you are, right? You don't gain if you don't pay attention to 2 things. And hard gainers, we as hard gainers, the guys who don't just genetically slab on muscle just easily without thinking about it, we as those individuals, as those people, we are the kind of people that need to pay the most attention to these 2 things. So there's something called the 80-20 rule, right? The 80-20 rule means that 80% of results come from 20% of your efforts. Yeah, that's what the 80-20 rule states. So that means that the 20% of the things you do cause the 80% of your success, cause the majority of your success. So if you can focus and hone in on these small but important things, you will skyrocket your success. And what I'm going to do in this podcast, I'm going to give you the 2 things that you need to focus on, right? So you can forget about the supplements for a minute. You can forget about all these fancy workout plans with the bands and the chains and all these stuff that's got a farming likes on Instagram. It's going to sell products on Amazon. It's going to be sexy on Facebook. What I'm going to give you in this podcast is I'm going to give you the 2 things that you need to focus on to completely transform your physique. Does that sound okay? Does that sound cool with you? Is that all right? So that's the backstory from where I was at. I used to think that training was enough to grow my physique. It clearly wasn't. It was just making me sore. I had these 2 realizations that cause muscle growth as a rule, as the 80%, right? So there's the extra 20% that you can sort of, you can add your bands and your chains and you can do all your fancy stuff, but these 2 things are your meat and drink, right? Literally. So if you neglect these 2 things, you will not grow. So here's the 2 things. The first thing is, and it might seem obvious, but this is the first thing that most people who are hard gainers do not do, right? I'm going to get right down to it. It's a calorie surplus. So a calorie surplus means that you eat more than you burn off. You have more energy going in than you have going out. That is it, right? That is the entire game for nutrition. That is the first realization I had. I was like, I'm eating bird feed, I'm eating rabbit food, you know? I am not eating like a man who's going to grow muscle, right? If you want to make your body bigger, you have to eat like you want to make your body bigger. Now, what I'm not suggesting here is I am not suggesting you get fat. I am not suggesting you just ram food in for the sake of ramming food in. I'm not suggesting you go from a 1,500 calorie a day diet to a 5,000 calorie a day diet, ruin your digestive system, get fat, ruin your hormonal profile. I'm not suggesting any of that. I'm not suggesting you eat junk food. I'm not suggesting cheat meals every day. What I am suggesting is you get in a calorie surplus and you raise your calories up, okay? So if you don't know how many calories a day you're eating, go on MyFitnessPal, get your phone out, go on MyFitnessPal, it's a free app from your app store, download that app, track everything you're eating, figure out how many calories you're eating. If you're not gaining weight, get them calories up. Simple as that. You know, add your calories by, add an extra 200 calories a day to your diet, then see if you gain weight. Not gaining weight, get some more calories in that, get another 200 calories a day, right? So if you figure out that you're eating 1,800 calories a day and you're not gaining weight, up to 2,000. Every single day. Do not miss a day, right? Every single day, up to 2,000. Not gaining weight, up to 2,200. Every single day. Do it for a week. See if you gain weight. Gain a pound, brilliant. Keep it at that. Don't gain any weight, up to 2,400. And that's just that. That's it. That's the nutrition game. That's it. Now, there's discussions to be had about different kinds of foods and timings and things like that. But until you've got the grasp of calories in versus calories out, till you've got energy balance, till you've got thermodynamics nailed, there's no discussion to be had with nutrition. So that is the basics of nutrition. Get in a calorie surplus if you want to gain weight, if you want to build muscle. There's no way around that, okay? There is no way around that. Get in a calorie surplus if you're a hard gainer. That's how you bulk, that's how you put on size, all right? So what I would suggest is eat enough to gain around £1 a week. Eat enough to gain around £1 a week, because that's going to help you make sure that the weight you're putting on is muscle and you're not just accumulating body fat. Now, I know £1 a week doesn't sound much, but after 3 months, you know, after 12 weeks or so, you've nearly put on a stone, and a lot of that weight is going to be muscle. It's going to be good quality weight because you took your time putting it on slowly. And so keep an eye on your weight and eat just enough calories to keep the weight ticking up by £1 a week on average. Does that make sense? Cool. So if you're not getting weight, up your food, and do it in line with strength, because this is going to feed into the second realization I had and the second law of muscle building for hard gainers. Now, if you don't pay attention to calorie surplus, you ain't going to gain any weight. You ain't going to gain any weight, you ain't going to gain any muscle. But if you're in a calorie surplus and your training sucks, you still aren't going to gain any muscle because you don't have the stimulus to funnel that food, that extra surplus food that you've got, into muscle mass. So what do we do? What's the next realization I had? The next realization I had was progressive overload. Now this, again, it's not rocket science. It's absolutely simple stuff, but progressive overload is the key to building muscle. Now there's tons of different discussions to be had about the methodologies and stuff like that. But trust me, progressive overload, if you don't know what progressive overload is, I can do a whole deep dive podcast on progressive overload. But for now, just understand that it is the act of getting stronger over time. Progressively overloading your body in the gym, workout to workout to workout to workout, week to week, month to month, and year to year. You are getting progressively stronger over the course of time. So that means in its most basic essence, that if you have gone in the gym and you've bench pressed 60 kilos for 10 reps in week 1, then in week 2, you are going to go in the gym and you're going to bench press 65 kilos for 10 reps. Does that make sense? So now that's just one way of doing progressive overload, by slowly, incrementally increasing the weight. You know, so if you're failing, if your muscle, if your chest is failing on a bench press at 60 kilos on week 1, then on week 2, if you can bench press and make your chest fail at 65 kilos, you've just increased your strength by 5 kilos on the bench press. You just increase the amount of force, the amount of tension your chest is able to take by 5 kilos. If you could, now this is not necessarily realistic, but if you could increase your strength by 5 kilos a week and you could get to 100, 120 kilos, you could double your bench press. Imagine what that would do to your chest. That would explode your chest, because the force production and the tension going through your chest has become exponentially more, right? And so that is an incredibly powerful realization that I had. I can't get big lifting the pink dumbbells. I can't get big doing the stretch and the squeeze all the time. Now, there's a place for the stretch and the squeeze. There's a place for exercise execution. Exercise execution is massively important. Tension is king, all that sort of stuff. But if you don't implement progressive overload, take it from me, trust me, you ain't gonna grow, right? And this is coming from a guy who's trained for a long time, who's made a lot of mistakes. Progressive overload is king. So here's how to do progressive overload in a nutshell, and I will go into this deeper in another podcast in the future, but in a nutshell, here it is. Write down your lifts, right? Like the podcast I did on logbooking a few episodes ago. Write down your lifts in a logbook, and write down the weight, write down the reps, and write down any notes you need about form or execution. Then do the same workout either the next week or 2 weeks later, and write down your numbers again. But for this time, you refer back to the first workout you did, and you make damn sure that you beat every lift, you beat every number. Either you beat it for reps, you beat it for weight, you beat it for execution. They're your three variables, right? So, like I said, you could load the bar up with more weight. If or you could lift the same amount of weight. So if you only got 60 kilos for 5 reps because it was really, really heavy, then you could go in the next time, you could do 60 kilos for 8 reps. So that's not actually an increase in weight, but because you've got more reps out, you've still increased the force production on your chest. Does that make sense? So you've still progressively overloaded and you've hit your goal for that session. Now, there's one caveat to this. So if you have gone in week 1 and you've done 60 kilos on the bench press of 5 reps, right? And your form sucked because you found it really, really heavy, you found it really, really hard, and you were like bouncing it off your chest just to get it done, and you were a bit kind of ego lifting, then be honest with yourself and write down your form sucked, your execution sucked in your logbook. Then go back the next time and make damn sure that you tidy that form up. So you then go back the next time, you get 60 kilos for 5 reps again. So externally to everybody else, you haven't progressed. You've done 60 kilos for 5 reps week 1, and then week 2 you've done 60 kilos for 5 reps again on the same exercise. But what you've done in week 2 is you've tidied your form up. So you've slowed the tempo down. You're spending more time under tension. You're pausing at the bottom. You're squeezing your pecs. You're driving through, and that's where your execution comes in. That's where your tension comes in. That's where your form comes in, right? So if you increase your form, that's also an increase in force production on the chest because you're directing more tension towards the chest. Does that make sense? And that's it, that's the game. Calorie surplus and intelligent progressive overload with those 3 variables of weight, reps, and form. Nail them and you've won the game of muscle building. I don't care if you're a hard gainer. That is the formula. That is the formula. You are not, like, I don't want to be aggressive, but you are not special, you are not unique. It doesn't matter how bad your genetics are, it doesn't matter how skinny your parents were, it doesn't matter how skinny you are, it doesn't matter how much you've tried to gain weight in the past. If you add those 2 variables together and you do not miss a day for 3 months, you will look completely different. I guarantee it. You will look completely different. You will transform your physique, your strength will be through the roof, you will fill out your t-shirts, you'll be more confident, and you will own every single workout you do in the future because you know that this is the 80% of the game, right? Once you've figured this out, then you can start playing around with drop sets, and you can start playing around with supersets and messing about with giant sets and doing chains and doing bands and doing all these different things in the gym, right? And doing like nutrient cycling and carb cycling and intermittent fasting. You can all do all the different things. You can try that with the 20%, but until you've got the 80%, don't mess about with it. Do these 2 things. Do these 2 things. I promise you, if you do these 2 things, you will build muscle. Does that make sense? Cool. That's all I've got for today. That's it. That's the 2 things you do. Before you go watch any more videos, before you go messing about on YouTube or Facebook, write those 2 things down and make sure that you do them in your next workout. Make sure that you do them in your next program. And you'll build muscle. I absolutely guarantee it. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please go share it with a friend who needs to hear this information. I know this is a bit intense, but share it with somebody who needs to hear it. Subscribe if you want to hear some more episodes like this. Let me know in the comments below on YouTube. Leave me a review on iTunes or Spotify or whatever you're listening to this on. And don't forget to go get your free 6-week program at musclebuildingmastery.net. I'll see you next time on the Muscle Building Mastery podcast. If you're ready to stop wasting time in the gym and start mastering the skill of muscle building, go check out www.musclebuildingmastery.net to download your free 6-week muscle building workout plan. I have specifically formulated this workout plan to take you through the 3 stages of mastering your body, layering on a more advanced training methodology each week as you progress. That means that regardless of where you are with your training right now, this plan will push you forward and help you stack on more muscle and strength in just 6 weeks. So head to www.musclebuildingmastery.net now to grab your free 6-week workout plan.